This is, hands down, the best riding suspension kit that I've ever been in. Now, the partnership with Fox and Fulcrum here in Australia is so exciting because now you've got access to Fox products that are vehicle specific. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Loading Up, and I promised this one in one of the last videos I did. Actually, I promised it in the build of the Ram 1500. I was going to come back to everyone and let you know how we went down on the Tasmania trip with the Fox remote resi shocks in the Ram 1500. And I'm happy to report, hand on heart, despite what everybody thinks with our relationships and sponsors and all the rest of it, this is hands down the best riding suspension kit that I've ever been in, and that is the God's honest truth. I was absolutely blown away. I've been driving Rams now for going on 7 years. I've tried every different style of suspension in a Ram truck. Actually, the first Ram that I built, the Black Super Ram back in 2018, was running on Fox shocks, and we've gone back to, we've done a full circle, we've used everything else, and I can't stress enough how important it is for suspension to be valved correctly for a vehicle. Fox is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, 50 years of engineering, R&D, getting the shim stacks exactly perfect for every vehicle that they manufacture for, and they've absolutely nailed it with the Ram 1500. Now, the partnership with Fox and Fulcrum here in Australia is so exciting because now you've got access to Fox products that are vehicle specific. We're seeing a lot, and I've used some of them, I'm seeing a lot of different companies now bringing in remote reservoir shocks, and everybody wants to put on remote resis onto their truck because of the bling factor of it, right? Having that remote resi canister look cool. But for companies overseas that don't build shocks, they just have no idea what they're doing when it comes to the actual valving of it. And this is where, you know, the quality comes into it and you get exactly what you pay for. I want to go into detail in this video on what makes up the Fox shocks and why I think that they operate the way that they operate, and they're as good as they are. I ramble on in every video and try and make people understand how a shock actually works. I came across this YouTube video, which is the best YouTube video that I've ever watched. I think the thing's done about 800,000 views. I've probably viewed it 100,000 times. Now, this video is all about a trophy truck and how a trophy truck works, but they go into the specifics on how oil flows through the shock and how that valve stack actually works. And we might take a bit of an extract. Let's quickly let these guys explain to you, because you'll understand it and you'll understand what I'm talking about once you see this. Here's how a shock actually works.
The body of the shock is filled with oil. Inside, there's a moving rod with a piston at its end, and holes or ports that allow shock oil to pass through. There are stacks of thin flexible washers, top and bottom, that can be swapped out to alter how fast oil can flow through these ports, and allow separate tuning for compression versus rebound.
All right, so that's going to give you a really good understanding on how a shock works. Now, once again, I would urge everybody, if you've got some spare time, we'll put that link at the end of this video. Go in there and watch that video, because you will learn a lot about off-road performance. And this is the research that we do in the background, and where our motorsports program is coming into, you know, a huge advantage for Patriot campers with all the products that we manufacture. Once again, let's get back to this kit. So, once again, you can buy this kit directly from Fulcrum. It is designed specifically for the Ram 1500, the shock lengths and the shock valving most importantly. Now you'll understand a little bit more about what goes inside of a shock. It's just not about what it looks like on the outside. So in this kit, for the Ram 1500 specifically, all utes will always come set up from the factory with the nose down. The springs will be a little bit harder in the back, and that's obviously to compensate for the payload. So when you put some weight into the back of the truck, that the truck actually levels out. So you're going to get a set of coilover shocks for the front, remote reservoirs we'll get into for just a second. You get into a remote resi shock for the back, You'll get upper control arms, which will correct the geometry when you lift the front, and then you'll get a set of springs. Now the spring rate can be customer specific as well. So if you're doing a lot of heavy towing, if you've got a canopy installed on the back of your truck, rooftop tent, talk to the guys down at Fulcrum and they will spring the thing accordingly. Well, you do have preload adjustment on the front shocks though. So if you need a little bit more spring rate in the front, say you've got a winch on or a bull bar, or you're not running anything in the front, the Fulcrum guys will set up and adjust the preload of the front spring to spring the thing exactly perfect to what you need. Now for us, we're running in the Ram 1500 behind. We actually got rid of the springs and we put in a replacement airbag because my load varies so much from running around daily. You can see right now we're back in daily mode, rooftop tent's off, there's no fridge in the back, the tub's completely empty, and obviously I'm not towing a trailer around, you know, when I'm running to and from work. But when we go into a trip, I can increase that airbag pressure, which increases the spring rate. So it gives me the flexibility of springing the rear of the truck to exactly what I need. Now, when it comes to the construction of the actual shocks, we'll talk about that first. They're a 6061 aluminium, and they're all hard anodized as well. Now, that material there will dissipate the heat, and it's all about with the shock getting the heat out of the oil, hence the reason of the remote reservoir canisters. You have the extra oil capacity there, and the 6061 aluminium will allow the heat to get out of the shock quicker than, say, a steel shock would, which most monotube shocks are built out of steel. You've also got dual speed compression. They're 2.5-inch bodies, so the dual speed compression means you can adjust your low speed compression and you can adjust your high speed compression. And I hear this from a lot of people as well. I turn the clickers on my shocks and nothing happens, like I can't feel it. Well, that's because the valving's not even in the ballpark of the shock doing its job. With these things here, giving them one adjustment click made such a big difference. And I found that because it made so much difference, I was adjusting shocks more frequently on this trip than I ever have before because it did make such a big difference. Now, towing the ST5, being loaded up with all of that weight, when I got onto the tarmac, say for example, in Tasmania, it's very twisty, tight roads, you know, a lot of body roll in the big Ram and the ST5 on the back. So I'd find that I'd pull up when we got straight onto the bitumen. Whilst I was airing up my tyres, I'd wind the clickers all the way in and go full compression on the high speed side to ensure that the car felt a lot more stable on the road. Soon as we got onto the dirt, and it's part of the exercise, right? Think about when you're airing up your tyres. So you just walk around, give everything a bit of a click. As soon as I got off road, I'd back it off. If I was on gravel roads, I'd probably set it somewhere in the middle. If we were doing some of the hardcore stuff like climbs, I'd back the compression right out, allow the thing to articulate as much as it could. And I just found that the ride for every situation with these shocks, again, I can't stress it enough, the difference, the impact made on adjusting that compression and these shocks. I've never been in a better riding Ram. So that's about it for the shocks. Next component, and I think one of the most important components when you do a lift on any vehicle, is your upper control arms. So what this will do, what the upper control arms are effectively doing, they bolt into the front and then obviously they attach to the top of the suspension here. But what these will do is correct the geometry when you go and lift the front of the car. So when you go and lift the front of the car, obviously this thing doesn't have a front axle, but if you can picture, say, you know, a vehicle with a front axle, it's the easiest way to do it. As you lift the front of the car up, the front axle will come back, and it's really no different for an IFS car. What happens is when you don't correct the geometry in the front, you can't get a wheel alignment accurate. So camber, not so much problem. Caster is really a big problem. So that's where the position of the front wheels are, north to south on your car, and then your camber is obviously your toe in. If you don't get that correct, poor wheel alignment, very, very unsafe. The car becomes unstable, won't steer straight. But one of the big things is that people don't consider premature tyre wear, yeah? So if you can't get a correct wheel alignment on your car, you'll start wearing out the inside or the outside of your tyre. So this is a really, really important component. You'll notice in here, and again, goes back to that partnership that we have with Fulcrum now. A lot of these bushes are very similar to what we're putting into the ST5. These guys have been around forever. This is what they do. This is all they do. So correcting the geometry in the front upper control arms as part of the kit are a very, very important part. Now, when it comes to the rear springs, I can't tell you exactly what the spring rate are on these. It's not actually listed on the kit. But what I can tell you is Fulcrum and Fox have tuned all the spring rates to suit this kit. So you've got a 2-inch lift in the back and about a 3-inch lift in the front, and that corrects what I was saying before about the front sitting a little bit down. Now, by adjusting that preload on that front spring like I was talking about before, you can actually adjust the height. So you can get between a 2 and a 3-inch lift. 2-inch spring in the back, again, relevant to the load that you've got on and what you're carrying in the back. These will handle a little bit more capacity than the standard springs, but this is something that you really want to discuss with your Fulcrum dealer. They can adjust the front, set the preload, but depending on what you're towing in the back, they will match the springs to suit. So that's a run through the Ram 1500 Fox kit distributed by Fulcrum here now in Australia. Once again, I can't stress to everyone enough, and the world's kind of going a little bit crazy, I think, with, you know, copies and imports and imitations. A company that's been doing this for 50 years, you can't buy that. You can't buy time, right? And the engineering side of things is something that we're really big on here at Patriot Campers. Every year we learn something, you know, 10 years that we've been in business, from what we're building now, you look at the ST5 to the original Patriot camper, and then you think about what's going to happen in 40 years' time. And that's what happens when you purchase products from brands like Fulcrum and brands like Fox. You're paying for the experience, you're not paying for the bling. I think that it's amazing that these two have partnered up. We have now got an amazing relationship with Fox. I've been running Fox forever. I run Fox on my race truck, and that's probably something else, you know, you see through the episodes of Patriot Games, the amount of effort that we put into shock valving in the trophy truck. Once again, these guys have been doing this for 50 years and developing these kits with engineering teams that are developing them to do a specific job. And I can tell you hand on heart, they do it the best out of anything that I've driven on so far. So contact the Fulcrum store, have a talk to them. Not just available for the 1500, so obviously all of your big American trucks, they've got all that stuff dialed in. You get what you pay for, and you cannot go past this stuff. That's it. It's Friday afternoon. I'm gonna finish loading up and I'm getting out of here.